Hi, and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to focus on how to actually answer interview questions. 70 to 80% of questions asked at an interview are competency-based questions, which means they usually start with describe a time when you've worked as part of a team. How have you managed a difficult customer? Give me a time when you've worked under pressure. What these questions are looking for, or what the interviewer is looking for, is for you to demonstrate using your experience in the past of how you've worked under pressure, how you've worked as a team, um, all these different scenarios that you get an interview question. So when you hear a question like this, and there are millions of them that usually start with describe a time, or tell me about, or how, or what, open-ended questions which allow you to use your experiences to actually answer the question. Because there's so many different types of questions, or because there's so many competency based questions, it's very difficult for you personally to go away and prepare every single answer you possibly can, because sometimes you may get asked between 7 and 10 of these types of questions, and I say it's very difficult to try and memorize your answers, and it's certainly something I wouldn't recommend. So what do you do as the alternative? What we're looking to do when we answer these questions is to help you organize your thoughts. And how we help you organize your thoughts is by using a simple structure. That structure is called CAR. So C, A, and R. The C stands for context. And what context means is the background. So where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? The A stands for action. So action basically means what did you do? So with the scenario, what action did you actually take? What were the things that you did that brought you closer to achieving the goal, for example? And the R stands for result. So the result is the key thing that the interviewers are looking for. And the result is the happy ending, really. It's the happily ever after. So what was the result of all the action that you've taken, of the actual scenario that you're involved with? What was the result? What was the outcome? Remember, competency based questions, questions such as describe or how or tell me when, these open ended questions which allow you to demonstrate your experience. What is the really key thing that I want to get across in this tutorial is it's all about evidence. It's all about your experience. So what I mean by evidence is give examples. The more examples that you give, the better you're going to score. All too often people just give basic, very kind of simple answers which don't really go into much detail. And as ever with these tutorials, I'm going to give you an example of a good answer and a bad answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on a bad answer or a poor answer first. And the question that I'm going to use as an example is, what is more important, managing or leading? So what is more important, managing or leading? So a poor answer to this question would sound something like this. Leading is much more inspirational. Leaders are natural, they inspire, motivate and provide encouragement to their staff. Managing is much more process driven, which means it's about statistics, it's working with a set rules, it's about managing a team within those rules, and this is why I feel leading by example, having fun, will always achieve results. Now, while this may be true, there's no real evidence to support this answer. It's very opinion based, and it's a standard answer that I hear quite often for this type of question, and also for a whole host of different types of questions. So anybody can give an opinion, but what makes a candidate stand out is providing evidence, and that's why that answer was a bad answer, because it's very just opinionated. Okay, while it might be true, it's not really telling me anything about your experience. So if you get asked a competency-based question, make sure you give it an answer. Make sure you use an example from the past, from your own experiences. Now, if you feel that you just started out in your career, use examples from school or college. Now we're going to use, or we're going to look at an actual positive answer to the question, so a good answer. Now, to give a good answer to the question, what is more important, managing or leading? We're going to start off with the car. So the context, it's the background. So where was I? What was I doing? What was the situation? Whilst I was working for my previous employer, I was given the responsibility of a sales manager's role. for 6 salespeople, all relatively junior, ranging from 6 months to a year's experience. It was working for an insurance company, selling products to small SMEs. As the team were relatively new to sales and working in a competitive environment, there was a lot of pressure, especially for sales figures, and results were played out on electronic scoreboards so everybody could see them around the building. The action that I took to lead and to demonstrate how to sell with this relatively new team was I set something up called a Massive Action Day, where we focused on gaining appointments, which in turn would lead to more sales. As many of the team were new to the business, they had a lot of fear and were still learning. Part of my role, as I say, was leader, was instead of managing them and telling them what to do, I actually got involved with them. I spent just over an hour with each person. I was on the phone, I was coaching on some calls and making appointments on others. Their feedback has been great, as they received such a boost in confidence to know that I was not scared to get involved and make appointments with them. It was important so that they could see how I approached calls, how I gained appointments. Rather than just telling them what to do, I demonstrated it. The results were fantastic. And as a new team in sales, we went from being 6 out of 7 to being consistently number 1 for 11 out of 13 months. This is why I feel leading, involvement, showing a positive interest in my people is much more rewarding. My job is to lead, and hopefully what this answer demonstrates is that I am a leader and I can get results. And what I'd like to show you now is evidence of those 11 months. And in front of me here, I have actually the evidence of all the sales reports during that period of time to show how we went to number 1 out of 7 teams. So why is this a good answer? Now you can see hopefully where we've used CAR. So CAR, if you remember, is the background, it's the context. So the C stands for context. Where were we? What were we doing? What was the role? So in the example, it was a sales manager taking over a new team, people who had never really been in sales, people who were fearful. So what you're doing is you're painting the picture, you're painting the scenario for the interviewing panel. So that's CAR, that's the context. The action was, what did you actually do? That's all it is, action. What did you do? What was your role? What is your part in this? So you can see from the answer that this person set up something called Massive Action Day, focused on gaining appointments, teaching, demonstrating. This was all about leadership. And what this person was doing is saying, this was the action that I took, and this is why I believe in leadership. The result. So what was the actual result? So what was the happy ending, if you like? So this is a person who took a team from being 6 out of 7 to being number 1 for 11 out of 13 months. So that's a really impressive track record. So what they're doing is they're actually demonstrating that they can lead. They've got an example of how they've taken a team forward. And what is also excellent about this answer is they're now providing evidence. So here are the sales reports to prove what I am saying. So in summary, when answering these questions, and really take note of this, is evidence is the key. Evidence is so important, and evidence comes in 2 forms. One, in your actual answers, so what you actually say, and 2, is the actual physical evidence which you can demonstrate at interview. So in this example, it was like paper evidence reports. So for example, if you're going for a customer service position, it might be that you got a letter previously from a customer who was impressed by your service. So 2 forms of evidence. Use this as an example to prepare your own ideas when answering particular competency-based questions. So use CAR, use it every time you get asked a competency-based question, and you will get the job.